took one delivery and lost my entire life in 24 hours. Started like any other job, just another late-night run. A last-minute call from dispatch offering extra pay if I could pick up a sealed load and deliver it before morning. The route was simple, the money was better than usual, and I didn't ask too many questions because that's how this job works. Sometimes you just drive. I remember calling my wife before I left, telling her I'd be back by the next day. She sounded tired, but normal. Everything was normal back then. I wish I understood how important that word was, because about 2 hours into the drive, things started to feel off. First, it was small. My banking app sent me a notification saying a payment had been declined, which didn't make sense. I had money more than enough. I checked it at the last stop. Everything was fine. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe it was just a system error. But then another notification came, and another. Multiple failed transactions from my account in different places, cities I wasn't even in. I tried to log in again, but this time the app froze and logged me out. I tried resetting the password, but the email never came. That's when I felt it for the first time. That quiet pressure in your chest when something isn't just wrong, it's going bad fast. I grabbed my phone and called my wife. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. I told myself she was probably asleep, but something about the silence didn't feel right. The road ahead was empty, just endless asphalt and darkness stretching beyond my headlights like it always does. But that night, it felt heavier, like it was swallowing everything behind me. I kept driving, trying to focus, but my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a notification, it was a message from my bank. Your account has been accessed from a new device. My hands tightened on the wheel. I pulled over onto the shoulder, the engine idling low as I tried to log in again. But this time it said my account didn't exist. I just stared at the screen, rereading it over and over, like it would change if I waited long enough. But it didn't. It stayed the same, cold and final, like a door slammed shut. I immediately called the bank. The line rang for what felt like forever before someone picked up. I explained everything, my voice shaking more than I wanted to admit. And then the woman on the line said something I still can't forget. She said, "Sir, I don't see any account under your name." I thought she made a mistake, so I repeated it, gave her all my details again, slower this time, clearer. But her answer didn't change. "I'm sorry, but there's no record of you here." That's when the fear really set in. Not panic, not yet. Something worse, something deeper. Like the ground under your feet isn't solid anymore. I hung up and sat there in the cab, staring at my reflection in the dark windshield, trying to understand how a person just disappears from a system like that. How everything you built can just vanish in the middle of a night drive, with no warning and no explanation. I picked up my phone again and opened my messages. My wife's name was still there, but the conversation was gone. Completely empty, like we had never spoken before. I felt my chest tighten as I slowly typed her name into the search bar and hit call again. This time someone picked up, but it wasn't her. It was a man's voice, calm, confused, asking who I was and why I was calling his wife. For a second, I couldn't speak. My throat went dry, my mind trying to catch up with what I had just heard. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe I dialed the wrong number, but I hadn't. I knew that number. I had it memorized. I had called it hundreds of times. My grip tightened on the phone as I forced myself to respond, asking for her by name, my voice unsteady. There was a pause on the line. Then the man said, slowly, carefully, that I must have the wrong number. He sounded genuine, not aggressive, just confused, like I was the one out of place. I tried again, said her name one more time, but this time he cut me off, telling me to stop calling, and then the line went dead. I stared at the phone in disbelief, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Something wasn't just wrong anymore. Something was being taken from me piece by piece. I immediately opened my contacts and scrolled to her name. It was still there, but the picture was gone. No photo, no shared history, just a number that now belonged to someone else. My hands were shaking as I opened my gallery next, searching for any photo of her. anything to prove she existed. But as I scrolled, I felt a cold wave wash over me. Every picture where she should have been was different. Empty spaces, cropped frames, photos where I stood alone in places I clearly remembered being with her. It was like she had been erased, not just from my phone, but from every moment I had captured. I dropped the phone onto the passenger seat and ran a hand over my face, trying to steady my breathing. This wasn't possible. People don't just disappear. Lives don't just get deleted. But everything in front of me said otherwise. The truck engine was still running, a low constant hum that suddenly felt like the only real thing left. I looked at the road ahead, still empty, still stretching into darkness, and for the first time that night, I didn't want to keep driving. Every instinct told me to turn around, to go home, to see things with my own eyes. I put the truck into gear and pulled back onto the road, heading the opposite direction. The fog seemed thicker now, pressing in from both sides, the white lines barely visible under my headlights. My chest felt tight, every second dragging longer than it should. I drove for maybe 20 minutes before I reached the last town I had passed earlier that night. At least, I thought it was the same town. The gas station on the corner was still there, the same flickering sign, the same dim lights inside. I pulled in fast, parking unevenly, and jumped out of the truck, barely remembering to shut the door behind me. Inside, the place looked normal. Shelves stocked, fridge humming, the cashier behind the counter scrolling on his phone. For a moment, I almost felt relief. Maybe everything outside, everything on my phone, was just some kind of glitch. I walked up to the counter and asked if I could use their phone. The cashier looked up at me, confused, then nodded and slid the landline toward me. My hands were still shaking as I dialed the number again. It rang once, twice, then the same man answered. I didn't say anything this time. I just listened. In the background, I could hear something faint, a familiar sound, a laugh, soft, distant, but I knew it. My heart dropped into my stomach. It was her. I slammed the phone down so hard it echoed through the store. The cashier flinched, staring at me now, clearly uneasy. I tried to explain, tried to ask if he knew anything, if anything strange had happened around here tonight. He just frowned and said he had no idea what I was talking about. Then he asked me something that made my stomach twist even tighter. He asked if I was okay. And then he asked if I had someone he could call for me. I told him I was fine, that I just needed to go. But as I turned to leave, he said something that stopped me in my tracks. He said, "Hey, wait, you left your wallet." I froze. Slowly, I turned back toward the counter. My wallet was sitting there. I walked up to it, my hand hovering for a second before I picked it up. Felt normal. Same weight, same worn leather. But when I opened it, everything inside was gone. No cards, no cash, not even my driver's license. Just empty slots, like it had never held anything at all. I stood there staring into the empty wallet, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. My fingers ran over the slots where my cards should have been, where my license had always sat, but there was nothing. No imprint, no marks, nothing to suggest they had ever been there. It was like the wallet itself had forgotten. I looked up at the cashier, my chest tightening. I asked him if he had seen anything inside it when I came in. He shook his head slowly and said it was already empty when I dropped it on the counter. His tone was careful now, like he wasn't sure how to talk to me anymore, like I wasn't fully there. I tried to explain again, told him I had my license, my cards, everything just an hour ago. He just kept shaking his head, eyes flicking toward the door like he wanted me gone. That feeling came back again, stronger this time. Not panic, something worse, like I was slipping out of reality, piece by piece, and nobody else could see it happening. I grabbed the wallet and walked out without saying another word. The cold night air hit me hard, but it didn't help. Nothing felt right anymore. Even the sound of my boots on the pavement felt distant, like I was hearing it from somewhere else. I climbed back into the truck and shut the door, locking it immediately without thinking. My hands were shaking again as I looked around the cabin, searching for something, anything, that still proved I was me. The paperwork. I reached over and grabbed the delivery documents from the passenger seat. If anything was still real, it had to be this. The job. The load. My name on the contract. I flipped it open quickly and froze. The paper was there. The route, the cargo details, the pickup and drop-off locations, everything was filled out. Except the name. Where my name should have been, it was blank. Not crossed out. Not smudged. Just empty. Like no one had ever written anything there. My breathing got heavier as I flipped through the rest of the pages. Every section that should have identified me was the same. Blank spaces. Clean. Untouched. But the signature, at the bottom of the last page, there was a signature. And it wasn't mine. It looked wrong. Similar, but off, like someone had tried to copy it without ever seeing it properly. The letters stretched too far, the lines too sharp, like it had been written by someone who knew my name, but didn't know me. A chill ran down my spine. I slowly leaned back in the seat, staring at the paper, my mind racing. If my name wasn't on the job, then who took it? Who was this delivery actually assigned to? And why was I the one driving it? The truck suddenly felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were closing in. I looked at the dashboard at the small digital display that showed driver info. That system always had my ID logged in automatically. I reached out and tapped the screen. It flickered once, then reset. The name field loaded again, and for a split second, I saw something appear. A name, but it wasn't mine. Before I could read it, the screen glitched and went blank. Completely blank. No driver, no ID, no record. I pulled my hand back slowly, my pulse hammering in my chest. Then the radio turned on by itself. A burst of static filled the cabin, loud and sudden, making me flinch. I reached for the knob, but before I could touch it, the static faded, and a voice came through. Low, calm, clear. Delivery still in progress. I froze. The voice wasn't from any station I recognized. It didn't sound like a person talking over radio. It sounded direct, like it was meant only for me. Driver identity not found. My throat tightened. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. The voice continued, steady, emotionless. Replacement in transit. A cold wave ran through my entire body. Replacement. I slowly turned my head and looked into the side mirror. At first, I saw nothing but fog and darkness. Then headlights. Far behind me, a truck. Same model, same size, same color, and it was getting closer. I stared at the mirror, my breath slowing without me realizing it, like my body was trying to stay quiet, to not be noticed. The truck behind me moved steadily through the fog, its headlights cutting clean lines through the darkness, getting closer with every second. There was something wrong about the way it moved. Too smooth, too precise, like it wasn't reacting to the road at all. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I told myself it was just another driver, just another truck on the same route. But deep down, I already knew that wasn't true. The radio crackled again. Maintain route. My heart skipped. I looked down at the GPS. The map was still there, but the route had changed. The line no longer pointed back the way I came. It forced me forward, toward the original destination. Like turning around was never an option to begin with. I glanced back at the mirror. The truck was closer now. Too close. I hit the gas. The engine roared. The truck pulling forward. Tires gripping the wet asphalt as I pushed it harder than I should have. The road stretched ahead, empty and endless. The fog swallowing everything beyond a few dozen meters. My pulse was pounding in my ears as I kept accelerating, eyes flicking between the road and the mirror. But it didn't matter. The truck behind me kept the same distance. No matter how fast I went, it stayed there, not falling back, not getting closer, just matching me perfectly. A cold realization settled in my chest. It wasn't chasing me. It was waiting. The radio spoke again. Delivery must be completed. I slammed my hand against the dashboard. What delivery? I shouted, my voice breaking. Who is this? No answer, just silence. Then, a few seconds later, driver no longer required. My grip on the wheel loosened slightly. My eyes drifted back to the mirror. The truck behind me suddenly accelerated. Fast. Too fast. In seconds, it closed the gap, its headlights flooding my cab with blinding white light. I squinted, trying to see through it, trying to make out who was inside. And then I saw it. The driver. My breath caught in my throat. It was me. Not just similar. Not close. It was exactly me. Same face. Same expression. Same clothes. Sitting behind the wheel, staring straight ahead with a calm, emotionless look. Unlike me, he wasn't afraid. The truck pulled up alongside mine. For a moment, we were driving side by side, two identical trucks on an empty road swallowed by fog. I turned my head slowly, unable to look away. He turned at the exact same time. Our eyes met, and he smiled. Not a normal smile. Not relief, not recognition. It was something colder, something final. Then his truck began to drift closer. My heart slammed in my chest as I jerked the wheel slightly, trying to create space. But the road felt narrower now, like it was closing in on both sides. There was nowhere to go. His truck kept moving toward mine. Metal creaked. The side of his trailer scraped against mine with a long, violent screech that echoed through the night. My entire cab shook, the steering wheel vibrating in my hands. I tried to correct it, tried to pull away, but it was useless. He was stronger, more stable, like he belonged here. The radio came alive one last time. Transfer in progress. My vision blurred for a second, like the world flickered. The headlights, the road, the fog. All of it stuttered like a broken signal. I blinked hard, trying to stay focused, but something felt wrong. My hands, they didn't feel like mine anymore. The pressure on the wheel faded. The sound of metal grinding softened, like it was moving away from me instead of into me. I looked down. My hands were gone. Not gone like invisible, gone like they were never there. My body felt light, empty. I tried to scream, but there was no voice. And in the reflection of the windshield, I was no longer in the driver's seat. He was sitting where I had been just seconds ago. Hands steady on the wheel, posture calm. Eyes focused on the road like nothing had ever happened, and for a moment I couldn't understand what I was seeing because I could still think I could still feel something, but I wasn't there anymore. I wasn't in the seat, I wasn't in control, I was somewhere else watching from a place that didn't exist. My vision felt distant, like I was looking through glass or through someone else's eyes in the truck. My truck kept moving forward smoothly, like nothing had interrupted it, like there had never been a struggle, like I had never even been there. The radio was silent now, the fog still thick outside, the headlights cutting through it the exact same way, but everything felt different, colder, emptier, wrong. I tried to move, I tried to reach for something, anything, but there was nothing to control, no hands, no body, no voice, just awareness floating somewhere behind him. Behind the thing that now replaced me, he adjusted his grip slightly on the wheel the same way I always did, small habits, exact movements, like he had every memory, every detail, every part of me perfectly copied, but without the fear, without the hesitation, without the doubt. He didn't look around, he didn't question anything, he just drove like this was his route, like this was his job, like this was always his life. I tried to scream again, but there was still nothing, no sound, no presence. No way to reach him or stop what was happening, and then slowly the realization started to settle in, heavy and suffocating. I hadn't lost my money, first I hadn't lost my family, first I had lost myself. Everything else had just followed after, piece by piece, erased, replaced, rewritten. While I was still driving, still thinking everything was normal, still believing I was in control, the bank account, the phone, the photos, the documents, they didn't disappear randomly, they were being reassigned. Transferred, corrected to match him, to make space for him to exist fully, and for me to not exist at all. The road hadn't taken things from me, it had given them to someone else. The delivery was never about cargo, it was about replacement, about finishing a transfer that had already started the moment I accepted the job, the moment I said yes to that call, the moment I got behind the wheel and kept driving forward like I always do. The fog outside thickened for a second, then slowly began to clear. And as it did, I saw something ahead in the distance, lights, buildings, a town, the destination, the drop-off point. He didn't slow down, he didn't hesitate, he just kept going, steady, controlled, like he had done this 100 times before, like he knew exactly where to go and what to do, because to him this was normal, this was his life now, not mine. I felt myself fading slightly, my thoughts becoming quieter, harder to hold on to, like even my awareness wasn't meant to stay here for long, like whatever was left of me was just a leftover piece waiting to disappear completely. And just before everything went fully silent, just before the last sense of myself slipped away, I saw him reach for the phone on the dashboard. He picked it up casually and dialed a number without looking, and when someone answered, I heard his voice, my voice, calm, steady, familiar, say, "Hey, I'm on my way home, I'll be there soon." And somewhere far away, barely audible, like a memory that didn't belong to me anymore, I heard her voice answer back like nothing had ever changed, like I had never been gone. And that was the moment I understood completely there was never a way back, because by the time the road is done with you, someone else is already living your life like you were never there at all. And even as that realization settled in, something in me refused to disappear completely, like a small fragment of awareness that hadn't been erased yet. Something left behind in the gap between what I was and what replaced me, and that fragment kept watching as he drove, as he lived, as he continued forward without a single sign that anything had ever gone wrong. The road stretching ahead, now clear of fog, normal, just another highway leading into a quiet town with streetlights and empty intersections and houses that looked warm and real and untouched by whatever had happened to me. And the closer he got, the more I felt myself drifting further away. Like distance was no longer physical but something deeper, something tied to identity itself, and I realized I wasn't in the truck anymore at all. I was somewhere else, somewhere behind the moment that replaced me, stuck in whatever space was left over when a life gets rewritten. And then suddenly I saw it again, not ahead but behind, far back on the road, through something like a reflection or memory, another set of headlights appearing in the distance, faint at first but unmistakable, another truck following the same route, keeping the same distance, moving with the same unnatural precision. And for a brief second I understood something new, something worse. This hadn't started with me, and it wasn't going to end with me either. The road didn't just take one driver, it kept going, repeating, replacing, over and over again. And now somewhere out there another man was driving, maybe checking his phone, maybe calling his wife, maybe thinking everything was still normal, while the same process had already begun for him, the same quiet removal of everything that made him real. And I wanted to warn him, to reach out somehow, to tell him to stop, to turn around, to never take that road, but I couldn't do anything except watch as the distance between him and the truck ahead slowly closed, just like it had for me. And as that happened, I felt the last piece of myself start to slip, my thoughts thinning, my awareness fading into something distant and hollow, like I was becoming part of the road itself, part of whatever system kept this cycle moving forward. And the final thing I felt wasn't fear anymore, or anger, or even confusion. It was emptiness, a complete absence of everything that once made me who I was. And then even that was gone, leaving nothing behind except the road, the trucks, and the next driver who still believed he had a choice. And that next driver kept moving forward, just like I did, just like all of us did, thinking the road was just a road, thinking the job was just another delivery, unaware that everything had already been set in motion the moment he accepted it, the moment he turned the key and pulled onto the highway. And as he drove, the same small things began to happen, the same quiet signals, the same disappearing details, the same feeling that something wasn't right but not wrong enough to stop, not wrong enough to turn around, because that's how it works. It doesn't take everything at once, it takes it slowly, carefully, replacing piece by piece until there's nothing left to question it. And somewhere ahead of him another truck waited, keeping distance, matching speed, never passing, never falling behind. And somewhere behind him something like me watched, without being able to warn him or reach him or change anything. Just another leftover echo of a life that had already been overwritten. And the road stretched on endlessly, carrying them forward, one after another, driver after driver, each one believing they were still in control until the moment they weren't. Until the moment they realized too late that the delivery was never about cargo and the destination was never a place you could leave. And as the fog slowly began to roll back in around him, soft at first then thicker, heavier, swallowing the edges of the road and the lights and the distance ahead, it became clear that nothing had really ended at all. It had only continued, repeating exactly as it was meant to, because out here on this highway there are no accidents, no coincidences, and no second chances. Only the same road, the same drive, and the same quiet, inevitable truth waiting at the end of every route, that once you take that job, once you stay on that road long enough, you don't lose everything all at once, you lose it piece by piece until there's nothing left of you at all, and someone else is already living your life like you were never there in the first place. And the worst part is you never even realize when it finally happens, because by then there's no one left to remember that you ever existed, and the road just keeps going endlessly, silently waiting for the next driver to say yes.